Welcome back to the World from a Chef's Perspective, the podcast. This is another late night Sci-Friday conversation with my wife. She is a graphic designer and avid sci-fi fan. All right, so you're a graphic designer, and we were talking about how AI is going to take your job. How do you feel about that?
I feel terrified, and I feel terrified. I'm going to school for something that's going to be obsolete at some point here real soon.
Aren't we all?
True, but
We're all going to be obsolete at some point, I think.
well, yeah. I mean, at one point we are obsolete, but for now, I guess I'm going to still pursue it and see where it goes, and just be kind of a jack of all trades.
I think humans will always be involved in art, right? Because I think that AI right now, as far as fiction is concerned, and like the Hollywood writers being afraid AI was going to take their job, AI I don't think can write fiction as well as a human can. What do you think about that?
True, and I mean, there's definitely things that about art that it can't do, and like there's times where I've done a couple of AI designs, and you'll Adobe Express will let you tell AI what you want to create, and then you tell it to create a person, and the person has three hands and four arms. So there's definitely some improvement there that needs to happen.
Some definite improvement. I know when AI does paintings of us or makes, I mean, not so much makes songs, but when it does paintings of us, we look weird. We look like that Scream painting, with the melted face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we tend to look like that. But I heard a couple songs on the radio the other morning. The show I like to listen to, I'm that old, I listen to radio still. They had AI, some program they were using, they had AI write them like a really heavy metal song, an 80s, what they called an 80s hip hop song, but it was more like that 70s funk style,
Right.
which I liked. And I was like, I can't like it. AI wrote it. But the metal song they wrote was just very generic. It was not, it sounded like a band called Blind Guardian, which sings about dwarfs and all kinds of mythical lands like Lord of the Rings and stuff,
That's cool.
Blind Guardian's good, but this AI music, and I've heard other ones. I heard a Nirvana style song written by AI in the past, and I don't know. But one day, I mean, AI taking over, like in the dystopian sci-fi way, I don't know if that'll happen so much as basically push us out of our jobs with automation, which is run by artificial intelligence, but not like Terminator style,
Right.
comes down here and Skynet happens, and this whole back in time, forward in time thing goes on. Well, that's one thing too with consciousness though, is that we were watching season 7 episode. I don't know what episode number it is, but it was that Star Trek Next Generation episode Emergence, where the Enterprise, the ship, gets taken over by all, and it has an intelligence. It becomes intelligent, and so that's artificial intelligence. And what it does is set up these like fail safes against us from messing with its programming. And so, I mean, there could be that sort of thing. We could see that with like the self-driving car thing. Do you fear self-driving cars?
No, I actually am looking forward to that. I think they'll be much better drivers than humans.
I hope they would be. But you never know. So we watched The Thing last week, didn't we? I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks
I have
ago.
no concept of time, but it's one of your favorites.
It is one of my favorites. It's a good classic horror film, and it's got Kurt Russell in it, who's awesome. And there's actually a lot of actors in there, well-known actors that I can't think of their names, but it's a good movie.
Is it just like make scary movie, insert Kurt Russell, or do you like The Thing just because it's that story?
Both.
Okay, it's not just Kurt Russell.
It's not just Kurt Russell, but he definitely is an incentive to see it. He's awesome in it.
Yeah, that is true, but that's a scary idea though. The Thing, like you don't know what it is or who it is,
Right.
and it comes and gets you.
Well, it takes over, because it's trying to survive, and so it kind of takes over whatever it feels threatened by.
Interesting. Taking over whatever you feel threatened by. So like preemptive strike.
Right.
Okay. We talked about AI, and AI is big in sci-fi. What kind of sci-fi do you like involving AI? Besides like the Terminator, Skynet, anything come to mind? I mean, there's plenty of AI in sci-fi that comes to mind for me, but it's not in the forefront, it's in the background. It's like it's integrated into society already.
Right. There's that one with Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's called Zoe. Okay. Where he falls in love with it's actually Scarlett Johansson plays a type of AI.
Isn't that Her?
Or Her. It's called Her.
Yeah, Her. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, that one's awesome, and of course Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, yeah. About that movie Her, I think Her has already begun.
Yes, yeah.
It seems like the Japanese are at the forefront of the AI girlfriend field,
Right. That is true.
Like I've stated before, I think a few times, I wasn't in love with sci-fi when I was younger, when I was a kid. And I had plenty of people I knew that were, so I was exposed to a lot of it. But one of the shows, aside from Star Trek The Next Generation, that got me into it was the Stargate series on Sci-Fi Channel. Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, but it wasn't until like a year or two ago that we watched Kurt Russell again, the the Stargate movie.
Yeah, that's a great one.
You throw in anything like Ancient Egypt, Aliens, there you go. I'm sucked in.
And it also has James Spader.
It does have James Spader, yeah. James Spader is awesome in that. I mean, but Kurt Russell, he steals the show for you.
Yeah. Well, in a way, but the two of them together, it was about the two of them together, and it was a great movie.
It is a great movie, and I can't believe I hadn't seen it until about 1.5 to 2 years ago, because of the show I love. I've seen each and every episode of SG-1 and Atlantis, wow, several times. I mean, they were on repeat, for a long time. So we always just had it on in the house I lived in, and we went between Star Trek Next Generation being on all the time. This was after we could, download things off the internet and have every show known to man, have it being played on repeat for, I think, years on end, and so that's cool. That was cool. Yeah. But the whole alien thing, like, you involved ancient Egypt and stuff like that. The sci-fi lends itself to, I don't know, stories that could be rooted in conspiracy theories like aliens, alien abductions, stargates, other worlds, other species. The other species are always kind of cool to look at, though.
Right.
But they're always the same kind of humanoid, 2 feet, bipedal, 2 hands, grippers, if you will. I mean, I guess they're not always that, but they are. That's a lot of the aliens you see in sci-fi, except for Alien, which we talked about before. Right. So, but I think the conspiracy theory part of sci-fi is cool, like I talked about in alien abductions. But then you get into a whole different world there. It walks the line between sci-fi and complete conspiracy, which lends itself to sometimes being a nutcase. But speaking of aliens coming to Earth for nefarious purposes, like abducting us and taking our skin, if they do that, or taking a cow's eye. That cattle mutilation. They only take one eye in the cattle mutilation conspiracy. Did you know that?
No.
In that conspiracy, they take one eye, the lips, and something else.
Oh, lips. I didn't know cows had lips.
You didn't know cows had lips?
No.
Yep, they got lips, baby. But that show Resident Alien that was on, I think it started on Sci-Fi and now it went to something else. Yeah. Peacock, maybe.
Peacock, I think.
Or it's on Peacock. But season 1 we watched all the way through. Season 2. Did we watch that all the way through?
We didn't watch it all the way through. I want to watch it all the way through, though.
And, well, season 1 was great. It was kept you on your toes, kept you on the edge of your seat. But season 2, questionable, still good. I was into season 2 because I was so committed to season 1. Haven't seen season 3, but yeah, Resident Alien. It's a good show. It's a good show. Alien comes to Earth, disguises himself as a doctor, if I remember right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he either his ship got destroyed or he was there to destroy the Earth. Excuse me, but he really ends up falling in love with the town and the people, even though he fights it all the time. And it's a great character played by I forget his name, but he also was in another favorite of mine, Serenity or Firefly.
Firefly, yeah, that's in Firefly, Serenity. I haven't seen too much of that. That was in the realm of like Farscape back in the day on Sci-Fi Channel, where things could be pretty good or very horrible, depending on what they were, you know. So yeah, I think his in that show though, he comes to Earth to destroy the Earth, and he's in communication somehow. He's supposed to find something his people have sent him to get or activate, and his adventures, you know, through that are pretty wild. I mean, he has to take over that guy's body, so he has to kill that doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor lives in the cabin. Doesn't he put him in the lake?
Yeah.
He puts him in the lake, and then it thaws out, and they find a body, and it's basically on his property. Yeah, they think he's the doctor, but everybody that knows the doctor is probably like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy?"
It was fun.
And last week we watched Fifth Element for like the millionth time, you know, and that's always a good sci-fi too.
That's a great one.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's been a movie quite like that since that. You know, also involving ancient Egypt, aliens, time not important, only life important. I always remember that part, you know.
And Bruce Willis.
Of course, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis, he's the Kurt Russell of that movie.
He's awesome. Yeah, he really made that movie. And then the actress, what was her name?
Milla Jovovich.
Yes.
I think some would say she made that movie.
Well, I mean, it was a combination. It was a perfect
multi-pass.
Yep. And there was all the actors made that movie what it was. It was great.
I think for one of the Sci-Fridays months ago, because we've been doing this for months now, not just us, but like now it's up to like 50 other people, I think, or something like that, 40 to 50 other people that get tagged in different pieces. But I did do one on the ladies of sci-fi, and I had to add her, Lilu. She was the first one that came to mind, and then I came up at the end with Barbarella, because I'm like, Barbarella is like the OG sci-fi woman, you know. Yeah. She really is. So that was fun though. Barbarella, yeah, back in the day, I think that was like 1968 maybe.
Yeah.
Really vintage, and for its time it wasn't even one of the worst movies ever made, because you look at the old school like alien invasion movies. I mean, they're using like tubing from your washing or your dryer, you know, for arms and stuff like that. Coming out of the spaceship, it's like a pie pan. Yeah. I think, as we talked about too, AI right now, it all goes back to AI always with me. AI is not good right now at writing fiction, but one day I believe it will be as good or better. I mean, you're always going to have the human element with the human. So the human element is sporadic. The human element is chaotic. And if all AI is trying to do is solve a problem, what do they do when there is no problem? Do they create or not?
I guess create, you know.
What do they create though? Do they art as well as we do?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say how it'll all go.
And does it have its own identity, or is it like the Borg, where it's just all one and you assimilate, or they've assimilated together? You know, we say AI, like we talk about, it's like one thing, and it could be multiple different things. It could be AI art, AI business, AI cab drivers, I think AI chefs.
It'll end up, you know, being that and evolving into all of those different things.
Yeah, you're probably right. But one day I do believe, because you hear people say, well, it's not as good as people now, humans now at fiction. But I think one day it will be. What do we do when it is as good? You know, I don't know. That's the question.
I think I want to talk more about the AI and what happens if it's, when it becomes as good as us. Well, that's the ultimate question. I mean, we're going to have to tread carefully, and we're going to have boundaries and rules, and make sure that we're teaching AI and um, creating, not just letting AI have complete, control of stuff and having boundaries. But I totally think there's an opportunity for a world where AI and humans work together. I mean, you could take a situation where our elderly, who are in severe need of better care from family and friends, and better places for them to be where they thrive and aren't just left to die, where AI and some sort of graphic designer, for lack of a better word, would work together to create atmospheres of art or healing music or some sort of modality of creativity that would create a healing atmosphere, or a space for these people to live in where they're having, you know, things that where they can thrive, and types of therapy for their body and their mind. I mean, you could be really creative with it. There's opportunity there to be a partnership with AI, even though that sounds weird, or also have it be really terrifying.
The partnership with AI, like the singularity, where we fuse essentially or become one with, I don't want to say the machines.
Well, I'm not talking about fusing. It would definitely be important to be separate, but creative, sharing, and fusing together, maybe for a time, but not permanently.
A
Like it's not
partnership,
gonna take over you.
a partnership of like ideas.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, no, it's not going to take over. You would still be yourself in this instance. We would still be ourselves, but it would be a partnership with AI. So that would be, I guess, the definition of the singularity of us bonding. Let's say not fusing, but bonding. So the best of us, the best of AI, that's the best of the situation right there, I think. And since we both worked in healthcare, different aspects of healthcare, you worked in more of the caregiving and housekeeping side. I, of course, ran the kitchen. And and so, but we all saw people with cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. And so I think maybe not so much robotic AI in there, but through things like VR, you could give people part of their life back that they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, now we get into, though, with Alzheimer's and dementia, we get into what can happen with the brain implants. That I think if it can do everything that they want it to do, would be able to take care of any kind of cognitive decline, anything like that.
Right.
It would repair pathways, and I mean that goes for anything: addiction, depression, whatever. So that's where I think the best, and the medical community should get the AI first. It shouldn't go to like the war machine first, even though we know that's what's going to happen, because that's how it rolls, in our society. But yeah, using it to help out would be great. Yeah, and a piece I wrote, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, Future Chef. It talks about, I talk about, of course it does because I wrote it, but I talk about in that piece, what happens once brain implants and augmentation become commonplace. I use a chef as an example, who's lost his sense of taste and smell, but there's so many other things that could be added to that world with an implant. But when does it become mandatory? When does the implant become mandatory? Like, let's say any technology, computers, you didn't used to have one. Now you have to have a phone or computer or tablet, something to access that internet.
I don't think it'll even have to become mandatory, because just like with everything, we'll want to upgrade, and especially if it comes from a space of, yeah, I was a chef and now I can't taste anything, or I've had multiple heart attacks because of stress, but now this implant in my brain makes me able to combat that stress, and I don't have to even have, there's already robots helping, so I don't even have to have the physical stress. I can utilize the transplant to fix the things that are making my body a challenge, and I can thrive and do what's passionate if that's what they wanted to do. So you'll want to upgrade to that. You'll want that help as long as it doesn't take you completely over. Then it'll be a problem.
Everybody's afraid of the takeover, of course, but would we even know it? Would we know we were taken over?
At some point, yeah, because everything does know that it's. I mean, everything has a sense of being trapped to a certain degree.
What if, okay, what if, let's throw this in there. What if we were not in base reality now and didn't know it? And figured it out. Then it'd be like the Truman Show.
Right.
Right? He figured it out. Everybody was there just for him. Yeah. It's all for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the brain implant for chefs, eliminating or at least decreasing stress. You want to have some level of stress, I think, because as a chef, you need a sense of urgency. You can't really learn that, I don't think. You can, sort of, but it has to be inside you. And if your implant, once your blood pressure or whatever, or temperature goes above a certain level, if it just hits that button to calm you down, you're like, whatever. This plate can go out whenever. I'm not going to stress about the box right now, the ticket box going off at me. I'm not going to stress out about that. But I think it would be good for overall health of people in stressful jobs, especially when you look at police officer, first responders, things like that. I mean, that's real stress. People ordering food, bunch of tickets coming into a kitchen, that's stressful. But really, if that all went away, people would still eat. But you would always need emergency services. So I think those kind of people would benefit from that aspect of the brain implant better than others. And when I say mandatory on brain implants, I'm not saying like it's some kind of mandate set by the government, but check this out. Like right now, if I want to access my bank, I got to do it from an app on my phone. A couple different jobs I've had required me to have apps on my phone, either to clock in, to get paid, to do whatever with, for ordering product. And so what happens then when it's all done from the implant? They're not saying, oh, it's the law, you have to have an implant, but you pretty much, to function in that kind of society for work, like I said, work and banking and things like that, you're going to need to be a participant.
Right. And my mind was going into something else where I thought about people in highly difficult situations, confrontational, or again, life-threatening things. I was thinking about police officers where at some point they might even offer a chip, or not a transplant, but a chip or something, some sort of AI that can monitor your stress level, but it also monitors, which is kind of scary because then it's like IDing people, or profiling, but that they might be aggressive, and so prepare for that, and like checking, if you're dealing with any issues of your own aggression, or, I mean, police officers are human and everybody has their stuff that they deal with. All of that could be looked at before you even hit or, have that interaction with that person.
Yeah, I think too, when they talk about psychological testing for law enforcement and like people in the military, people that are around dangerous weapons or have power, you could really, with like the Neuralink thing, that is an implant. It's like a nickel-sized thing that, they take a piece of your skull out and put that in and attach these little tiny hair wires to your brain. And so that would be an implant. But through that, I mean, you could really find out, I guess, what was really going on in somebody's head. If they're a sociopath, if they're sitting there going, I'm going to get into this role, or some reason I'm really craving power right now, the implant could potentially see that and weed out those people that really want to have that power, like as a police officer or something, right. Or a politician. But there's no real interview for politicians. See, right. we could have to be able to, and then you look at the connectivity. If we were all connected with those implants, that'd be a pretty loud place to be. Yeah. You'd have to be able to shut that off. And my fear with the implant, though, is like we get enough ads already on our phone. and computers and everything else that pop up that are for us, that are meant for us to look at based on what we've looked at before. And so my fear is that if there's an implant and if it's attached anywhere to your like ocular nerve, that those ads now just pop up in front of your field of vision.
Right.
Until you have to wait like a minute or something for, okay, now wait. Now you can resume your version of reality. Here's our version for the minute.
Yeah.
All right. This has been Sci-Friday. Thank you for sitting down with me again.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening.